Meanwhile, let's just reflect on the State of the Seas report. Now, this is a new report that shows higher numbers of sightings of certain wildlife, like species of shark across Cornwall, bluefin tuna, quite commonly spotted now. Poor beagle and thresher sharks are on the up. This is the South West Marine Ecosystems Partnership, who have relied on public sightings and their own studies to put together this yearly report called the State of the South West Seas.
There's been sort of an increase really in some of the more unusual sharks that people don't see so often because they don't come to the surface and we don't see them around on the beaches. Things like poor beagles and thresher sharks, we've seen increases of those. And sadly, in 2021, it's still been a really rubbish year for basking sharks, though. So those beautiful, the second biggest fish in our seas that we get regularly, or used to get regularly, we still had a really bad year. So fingers crossed, we're hoping that the basking sharks come back again sort of in future years. But the purpose of this report is that we can monitor these trends and we can see what's a natural fluctuation and what might be a trend that's of conservation concern.
That's Ruth Williams from a Cornwall Wildlife Trust. We'll hear more from her after 11 this morning on this new report that's been published. It covers wildlife and also things like plastic pollution, litter, water quality. Let's get some reaction from Sue Sayer. She's from the Cornwall Seal Group Research Trust and she's read the report. Morning, Sue.
Oh, hello there. Hi, James.
Hey, morning, Sue. Your thoughts as you've had a look through, particularly on the seals aspect. How are you feeling?
So actually, I edit the seals bit. So I pull together all the content, which includes information that's been collected by hundreds of citizen scientists and professionals around the southwest. So I'm the one that has to pull it all together.
Okay, so you know the information well. How are our seals doing down here?
Seals are doing okay down here, but just because numbers are doing okay doesn't mean that everything's okay, I guess. We had some important legislative changes in 2021 for seals, which I thought would be worth sharing. So whilst most people will have think this has been illegal for a long time, in March 2021, it finally became illegal for anyone to shoot a seal in the UK. So that was something that was driven by the US Marine Mammal Act. They won't import fish if there has been lethal predator control. So the UK has now banned any shooting of seals. Finally, thank goodness, which is great news.
Why is it, Sue, that someone would have shot a seal in the past? Is that because of I don't know. You explain.
No, well, it is difficult to understand, and I think most people will have been quite shocked anyway that anyone would want to. But, it's something that happened historically. The last organised cull of seals was in the 1970s. And this is one of the reasons why we're seeing a kind of rebounding recolonisation of the southwest, because seals stopped being shot in the 70s and now the populations are starting to recover, which is really great news.
And why did they get shot in the 70s? Was that to protect fish stocks?
Yes, I think there was a long-held misunderstanding that seals were competition for fisheries. And of course, what we now understand from modern science is that fisheries actually need seals, and they need them as a top predator because top predators keep the whole marine ecosystem in balance and they recycle nutrients through the water column. And if we have, seals need fish to eat. If there's no fish, seals die. Fishers lose income, but seals die. So if you have a thriving seal population, that means you've got a thriving marine ecosystem, which benefits everyone, including fishers. So, it was just that modern science didn't know that until fairly recently.
One of the things we've learnt from this report, Sue, is the amount of litter that's been collected around our coast and water quality also going downhill. Is this a sign of over-tourism, which we had last year after lockdown, where we had so many visitors down here enjoying our coastline?
Well, it's hard to say, really, because one of the emerging things that we've had that's linked to litter is we've had more hooked seals from fisheries. And actually, that's not anybody's fault as such, apart from all of ours, because of climate change. What's happened is that the peak seal haul-out numbers have moved earlier in the year, from April back to December. And the mackerel fishery has moved later because of climate change, and now there's a spatial and temporal overlap that never used to exist. Another way that plastics affect seals, I think we had 134 different entangled seals last year. They're entangled in sometimes fisheries, and the emerging issue was those flying rings. You know, the kind of frisbee-like things that we play with on beaches.
Yeah.
They've got holes in the middle, some of them, the modern ones, and they're a huge threat to marine life. And we've had seals caught up, 2 seals in March 2021, caught up in these flying rings. So we're currently running a campaign to say, if you want to play with these toys on a beach, use a solid disc one. Don't have one with a hole in it, because the wind will inevitably take it away from you at some point, and then it ends up in the sea. So if you're near water anywhere, river or the sea, play with a solid disc.
So, sound advice, and thanks for your reaction to the report, part of which she compiled from the Cornwall Seal Group Research Trust, Sue Sayer. And that State of the South West Seas report is out today. We'll find out more about what's in it coming up after 11 o'clock at BBC Radio.